Welcome to Tice Travel Time. Today I will be telling you all about the must-have apps for traveling Vietnam. I traveled Vietnam for 6 weeks and I actually used all of these apps pretty much every single day. These will be a game changer in making traveling Vietnam smoother, easier, and honestly just more enjoyable in general. First up is Grab, which is basically Vietnam's Uber. This is a must-have app. Grab was so convenient in getting us from place A to place B. Also, if you are solo traveling in Vietnam, you always have the option to call a Grab motorcycle, and you can just go on the back of a Grab driver's motorcycle, which is really common. You'll see the Grab drivers all around. They have the green helmets, and they also make sure that whoever they're driving is also given a green Grab helmet. But if there's more than one person, you can choose to take different motorcycles, or you can all share a car. You can also order food from the Grab app as well. So if you're hungry and you can't find a place to eat and you want to eat in, that's another option as well. This is affordable, it's really easy, and it's a great way to not have to haggle with taxi drivers, as they usually hype up the price significantly. And if you don't want to be paying those overpriced tourist prices, having the Grab app is essential. Next up is Google Maps. Google Maps is one of my most favorite apps. I use it all the time to mark places I want to go. It is super easy to download the maps off of Google Maps, which I highly recommend. Downloading the maps is really easy and allows you to know where you're going. If you don't have a connection and you want to walk somewhere with your offline map, it doesn't usually show your walking map, but it will always show you the car path, and that helps a lot. Also, though, note that Vietnam is not the most walkable place. Some cities are more walkable than others, but in general, the streets are pretty narrow on the sides for people walking. There's a lot of different people selling things or hanging out, or there's cafe chairs. So there's not always a ton of space to walk around. I wouldn't say Vietnam is the most walkable country, but having your maps downloaded in advance is a huge benefit, and it really helps you, especially if you're renting motorcycles throughout the trip, or if you're renting a motorcycle and going from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh. It is really nice to ensure that you have your route mapped out and you know where you're going. For buses and trains, I also used 12Go Asia, which is really convenient for comparing the prices for different buses or different trains. Now, I will note that I was also working with a variety of travel agencies that were on the street, as I learned that those actually ensure that you can get picked up from your hostel or hotel and dropped off at your hostel or hotel. And it's usually almost the exact same price as 12Go Asia. So I usually was looking at that, and it would just depend on the scenario of where we were staying and what we were doing. But typically we learned that going through a local travel agency generally was the better option, but still having 12Go Asia as a reference for different companies and different prices and different times available, that was still really nice to have and to see. Google Translate has been one of my favorite apps for so long while traveling in countries that don't really speak English. Now, Vietnam, I will say there are places where English is pretty prevalent, but there's also places where people don't speak English. It's also Vietnam, so they speak Vietnamese. In the Google Translate app, you can actually say, Shin Chop Bi Un KHE KHNG, T Tien Lot Maya, TNT New York, and type the voice icon, and it will directly translate that speaking into English. This became really convenient and helpful throughout our trip. You can also have somebody else type something and that can be translated, or you can even scan a Vietnamese menu and that will translate to English. We found that super, super helpful, as a lot of restaurants throughout our trip did not have an English menu, and this just made life simple and easy. I also highly recommend that when you use the Google Translate app, that you download the Vietnamese language in order to ensure that if you have bad service, you're still able to translate English into Vietnamese, or any other language for that matter. Now, if you are traveling Vietnam, you might already know this. It is a very affordable place. Typically, though, if you're budget traveling, you want the cheapest option. I usually booked things through Expedia Booking.com, or Hostel World. Those three are absolutely amazing. I would say I tended to lean toward Expedia, which I absolutely love. On Expedia, you can book flights, you can book transportation, hotels or hostels, activities, and so much more. It's really a go-to spot that has everything you could possibly need. I found Expedia really helpful, and I highly recommend that you download Expedia and start using it today. Now, this might be something you already know. I have a short on that you can use the calculator app to translate the currency. And this is amazing and really cool. If you go to your calculator app and you go to the bottom left corner, you can actually click the convert button. With the convert button, you then can change the currencies and have USD to Vietnamese dong. I used this all the time, and it was so convenient because the calculator app is usually built into an iPhone if you have an iPhone, and it just saves you so much time and energy. Now, I will say translating to Vietnamese dong is typically not too difficult, but regardless, it's really convenient to have access to a currency exchange app on the calculator. All right, the final app is one that you probably know if you're a well-known traveler. It is WhatsApp. WhatsApp is the best app to have for communicating with people. Now, if you're booking hotels and hostels or tours or really anything, people generally contact you through WhatsApp. That's where they send you their confirmation. That's where they send you information on the buses or the trains or where you're staying or where the tour is going to be and when they're going to pick you up. Everything is typically sent in WhatsApp. So that is definitely a must-have app while traveling Vietnam. It is really important to have. If you are meeting people and mingling, typically they'll be like, "What's your WhatsApp?" And that is just their classic way of communication, and it is really a must-have app. Those are all of my apps that make traveling Vietnam cheaper, go smoother, quicker, and overall just easier. If you have all of these apps on your phone before your trip, you will be so grateful. I hope you have a blast traveling Vietnam. It is truly one of my favorite countries, and it is a must-visit place. Thank you so much for watching Tice Travel Time. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video.